This is the brief on AI Decoded. Think of this weekly show as your very own universal translator, taking all that intimidating tech speak and turning it into practical, everyday language for folks without a technical background. First, we need to look at who this is actually for, because their core mission is to make artificial intelligence finally click for non-technical users. Since we aren't all programmers, the show acts as a strict filter for information, which really makes you wonder, if AI systems are so profoundly complex, how accessible can they genuinely be for an absolute beginner? Well, second, we see how the two hosts answer that by aggressively filtering the noise, separating what's actually useful.
Imagine spending like $5,000 to print and mail these beautiful glossy flyers to a high-end neighborhood. And then you just sit back only to have a 22-year-old real estate agent completely steal your client.
Just snatch them right up.
Exactly. And they do it because they posted a shaky, totally unedited 15-second video from their car.
Which is wild, but that is exactly what is happening in the market right now.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are digging into this fascinating set of notes and strategies all about social media for real estate agents.
It's a goldmine of information, honestly.
Yeah, and our mission today is to basically extract the ultimate modern playbook for real estate lead generation. We want to look at how you replace those slow, super expensive traditional methods with these high-leverage digital strategies.
Right, because the traditional playbook is, well, it's experiencing a severe case of diminishing returns.
Like paying for premium placement on major listing portals, right? Or blanket farming a zip code with physical mailers.
Yeah, or spending hours cold calling. I mean, those methods assume the consumer is already at the very bottom of the funnel. Like they are ready to transact right this second.
Which is a tiny fraction of the market.
Exactly. The new game, the one mapped out in these sources, focuses on reaching people months or even years before they explicitly realize they need an agent.
It's about leveraging algorithms to generate passive impressions, right?
Yeah, to build this deep parasocial trust at absolute scale.
So whether you are a realtor listening to this in your car between showings, or, you're just a curious learner who's fascinated by how digital ecosystems rewrite entire industries, you are going to get some major aha moments today.
Oh, absolutely.
Because to understand modern real estate marketing, you really have to understand how the internet actually functions today, not how it functioned like 5 years ago.
Right. And to map that out, we have to start with the platform that traditional professionals often dismiss the quickest. We have to talk about TikTok. Because understanding the structural mechanics of TikTok fundamentally shifts your perspective on literally every other marketing channel.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I know a lot of professionals hear TikTok and instantly picture, viral dance trends.
Of course they do.
But the source material makes this really bold claim. It says TikTok is arguably the single most powerful tool available today for reaching strangers.
Yeah.
So why is it so effective for a localized business like real estate?
It boils down to a fundamental structural difference in the algorithm itself.
Okay.
So platforms like Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, historically, they operate as social graph feeds.
Meaning who you're connected to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On a social graph platform, your content is distributed primarily to people who have actively chosen to connect with you.
Yeah.
Your followers, your reach to non-followers is severely gated.
Right.
But TikTok, however, they pioneered the interest-based feed.
That sounds like a major paradigm shift, honestly. But let's make sure we have a clear mental model for that. How does an interest-based feed actually behave differently for the user?
Think of a social graph feed like attending a family reunion.
Okay, I like that.
You are in a closed environment, exclusively hearing from people you already know, and the conversation is limited to that specific network.
Makes sense.
Now, an interest-based feed is like walking into a massive global convention center where the host instantly teleports you to a stage where someone is talking about your exact, hyper-specific current obsession.
Wow. Regardless of whether you actually know the speaker or not.
Precisely. The algorithm doesn't care who you follow. It tracks your micro-behaviors to predict what you will find compelling in that exact millisecond.
So for an agent, this means every single video has a statistical chance of being served to someone who lives in their target zip code.
And happens to be passively dreaming about a new house.
Yes. That completely removes the massive barrier of needing to build a huge follower count before you see any ROI.
It does. But it's not a random lottery. The algorithm tracks specific behaviors to decide who gets that organic reach.
Right. The mechanics are pretty ruthless, according to the notes. The algorithm evaluates 4 critical active metrics: completion rate, shares, comments, and saves.
And notice what's missing there. Likes are virtually irrelevant here.
Wait, really? Because everyone obsesses over likes?
I know, but a like is a passive, fictionless action. The algorithm demands active, high-friction engagement to validate a piece of content.
I understand why comments and saves matter. They take effort. But how does the algorithm weigh a share versus, say, a completion? Does it prioritize one over the other?
So completion rate is the baseline. If the viewer swipes away in 3 seconds, the algorithm assumes the content is irrelevant and just halts distribution entirely.
Okay, so you have to keep them watching.
Right. But a share is the ultimate algorithmic signal. If a user copies the link and texts it to their partner saying, hey, look at the layout of this kitchen, they are effectively doing the algorithm's distribution work for it.
Because they're validating that the content is highly relevant to a specific real-world relationship.
Exactly. Which leads directly to what the sources call the content trap.
Oh, yeah. Because if the goal is active response and sharing, that perfectly polished, beautifully photographed kitchen tour we talked about at the top of the show,
It completely flops.
it flatlines.
Totally. A gorgeous cinematic pan across a quartz countertop, it just doesn't provoke a strong emotional response.
Right. It's aesthetically pleasing, but it doesn't compel someone to stop, type a comment, or text it to a friend.
Conversely, a video where an agent points out a genuinely terrible, unworkable bathroom layout in a multi-million-dollar home.
Or breaking down exactly why a specific new listing is overpriced by $50,000.
Exactly. That sparks debate. That gets shared.
But wait, isn't an agent going to ruin their luxury branding if they put a raw, unedited rant on a page meant for million-dollar homes? I mean, if you are selling high-end real estate, it feels like lowering your production value is a massive professional risk.
What's fascinating here is that the definition of professionalism has evolved.
How so?
Well, in an algorithmically driven landscape, high production value often triggers a psychological defense mechanism.
Like, oh, this is an ad.
Yes. When a consumer sees drone footage and cinematic lighting, their brain immediately categorizes it as an advertisement. Their guard goes right up.
So the rawness of a front-facing phone camera bypasses that filter.
Exactly. It signals vulnerability and authenticity. It feels like a private consultation rather than a broadcast.
It's the things your agent doesn't tell you approach.
That is the most successful genre of content for a very good reason. Buyers and sellers harbor this deep-seated suspicion that the real estate industry keeps secrets.
Oh, for sure.
So when you drop the glossy facade and openly discuss the ugly parts of the inspection process or the hidden costs of closing, you aren't damaging your brand.
You are establishing yourself as the rare insider willing to tell the truth.
And that builds an incredible amount of trust.
But you have to earn the right to share that truth fast. Like the notes really emphasize the hook. You have 1 to 3 seconds to stop the scroll.
1 to 3 seconds. Max.
So if an agent sits at a desk and says, "Hi, my name is John, I'm a realtor in Dallas, and today I want to talk..."
They are already dead in the water. The viewer swiped past John before he finished his own name.
Ouch. So what works?
A successful hook requires visual disruption or a totally counterintuitive statement. You need to open mid-action.
Like walking briskly down a sidewalk.
Yeah, pointing directly at the lens and saying, the bank can deny your mortgage on the actual day of closing and nobody warned my clients.
Oh, wow. You demand a response with that. The viewer has to know how that story ends.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears, because if TikTok demands this very specific, raw, unpolished vibe, how does that square with Instagram? Because Instagram is a platform built entirely on aesthetic polish and curation.
This raises an important question, right? This is the core tension for creators and businesses right now.
Because Instagram Reels traditionally reward the well-lit, perfectly edited, brand-consistent look.
While TikTok rewards the phone camera naturalness, culturally, they really originated at opposite ends of the spectrum.
And the sources say you shouldn't shoot 2 completely different sets of videos because that would just destroy your schedule.
Nobody has time for that.
Right. The strategy is the 1 video to 3 platforms workflow. Shoot short vertical video once and distribute it across TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts.
But to do that, there is a technical step regarding watermarks. And we aren't just talking about aesthetics here.
We are talking about algorithmic penalties.
Big time. If you download a video directly from TikTok, it embeds a bouncing watermark, When you upload that file to Instagram Reels, Meta's AI scans the metadata and the visual frames.
And if it sees the competitor's logo?
It actively suppresses the reach of that video. The platform wants native content.
So the workflow requires running the file through a third-party tool to strip the watermark and the metadata before posting it to Instagram.
Takes less than a minute, but it is mandatory.
I have to push back on this strategy, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Even if you strip the metadata so Meta's AI doesn't penalize you, aren't you still going to jar your Instagram audience? If they are used to glossy curation, dropping a raw, shaky, unedited TikTok onto their feed feels like it would completely clash with the culture of the platform.
To push back a little on that assumption, we have to look at audience fatigue.
Okay.
What the data shows is that consumers are just exhausted by the overly curated aesthetic on Instagram. The Instagram look has kind of become white noise.
Interesting. So they just scroll right past the perfect living room.
Yeah. When a raw, highly authentic, deeply educational video lands on Instagram Reels, it often acts as a pattern interrupt.
It stops the scroll precisely because it feels more real than the 5 heavily filtered lifestyle videos that preceded it.
Exactly. The cultures of the platforms are converging because the consumer desire for authenticity is universal.
Okay, that makes sense. The rawness becomes the differentiator. But short-form vertical video is really ephemeral. You post a great reel, it gets traction for 48 hours, and then it basically disappears into the archive.
Gone forever.
Right. So how does an agent build a digital asset that doesn't expire?
This is where the strategy shifts from the interest feed to the search engine.
Yeah.
And that means fully utilizing YouTube.
Which a lot of agents ignore.
Most residential real estate agents significantly undervalue YouTube because the barrier to entry is higher. It requires longer attention spans, more upfront effort, and the algorithmic payoff isn't instantaneous.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because YouTube isn't just a video platform. It is the second largest search engine in the world.
Owned by the largest search engine in the world.
Right. And the content there compounds. It's like Instagram is a billboard on a highway, right?
Yeah.
People zoom past it and it gets taken down next week. But YouTube is a library. You write the book once, and people keep checking it out for years.
And the intent of the user changes everything. On short-form platforms, the user is passively scrolling to be entertained.
But on YouTube,
The user arrived via a specific search query. They typed in a problem they need to solve. That means their intent is incredibly high. And because the intent is high, they are willing to consume long-form, deeply nuanced content.
the sources highlight the 15-minute neighborhood tour as this massive lead generator. But how do you actually structure a 15-minute video so people don't get bored and click away?
You structure it around the unset anxieties of the buyer. You don't just point a camera out the window and drive.
Right, that's boring.
You use a dash cam mixed with B-roll, and you provide a running narrative that answers the deep research questions.
Like driving past the local elementary school and discussing the zoning changes?
Exactly. You stop at the popular coffee shop and talk about the neighborhood culture. You sit down at a park bench and break down the specific property tax implications for that county.
You are providing a hyper-local masterclass.
Yes. So if someone watches that entire 15-minute breakdown, they aren't just a cold lead anymore.
They have voluntarily spent a quarter of an hour listening to your expertise. They already feel like they know you.
Exactly. But to get them to click in the first place, the strategy around titles is absolutely crucial. You can't just name the video like a file folder on your desktop.
Like Coral Gables Neighborhood Tour.
Yeah, that is a terrible title because it doesn't tap into search intent or human curiosity. You have to title the video exactly the way a stressed-out relocating buyer would type a query into Google at midnight.
Living in Coral Gables, what nobody tells you before buying there.
Boom. That addresses the geographic search parameter while simultaneously exploiting the psychological fear of missing out.
Okay, so video requires a lot of on-camera energy and charisma. But what if an agent's strength is writing?
Great question.
Or what if they want to target a completely different demographic, say an executive relocating for a corporate job or a high net worth investor? That requires a totally different ecosystem.
It does.
Let's look at the hidden gold mines mentioned in the sources: LinkedIn, Facebook, and Nextdoor.
LinkedIn is massively underestimated in residential real estate. Agents often treat it as a digital resume or just a place to post a picture of a house with a just listed banner.
And that falls completely flat.
Totally flat because it misunderstands the algorithm and the psychology of the user.
Why does the algorithm reject the just listed post?
Because LinkedIn's algorithm prioritizes dwell time. how long a user stalks to read a post. A quick glance at a house photo doesn't generate dwell time.
Oh, that makes sense.
LinkedIn values analytical, long-form text that sparks professional dialogue. Furthermore, corporate clients, executives, and investors are looking to hire a peer, an advisor who understands market dynamics.
They don't want a salesperson.
Exactly.
So what does a successful LinkedIn post look like for an agent?
It looks like a case study. An agent might write 5 paragraphs breaking down a recent, highly complex transaction.
Like explaining how they navigated a tricky appraisal gap using a specific mortgage rate buy-down strategy.
Yeah, and what that signals about the broader local economy. You position yourself as an economic analyst who just happens to sell houses.
Wow. And what about Facebook? I hear constant chatter that Facebook is dead for organic business marketing.
It is dead if you are just broadcasting to a generic business page.
Right.
But Facebook is incredibly vital if you pivot to local community groups. The 35 to 65 age demographic, which is the prime buyer and seller range, is highly active in town-specific Facebook groups.
So the strategy is to go where the attention already is.
You monitor the community group and answer questions regarding local contractors, zoning board meetings, or property taxes.
You basically establish yourself as the most helpful person in the room without ever dropping a link to your website.
Yes, which flows perfectly into Nextdoor, the ultimate hyperlocal tool. Nextdoor is entirely bounded by neighborhood geography.
And that geographic bounding creates this impenetrable moat.
It really does. If you consistently show up on Nextdoor as a knowledgeable neighbor, sharing updates on road closures, recommending plumbers, answering questions about market trends.
You build localized authority.
And when a homeowner in that specific subdivision finally decides to downsize, the agent who has been a helpful digital neighbor for the past 18 months is the obvious first call.
I mean, if you're listening to this and feeling completely overwhelmed, thinking about how you're supposed to manage all these platforms, I am right there with you.
It's a lot.
How is a single professional supposed to shoot raw TikToks, manage the watermark metadata for Instagram Reels, film 15-minute YouTube search videos, write analytical LinkedIn case studies, A&D police Nextdoor? That is a one-way ticket to burnout.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is entirely unsustainable if you try to invent unique content from scratch for every single platform.
Okay.
But the alternative, copying and pasting the exact same text across all of them, results in algorithmic suppression because it ignores the unique culture of each channel.
So what's the systemic solution?
It starts with the 2-platform rule.
Okay, define the 2-platform rule.
Do not try to be everywhere at once. Choose 2 channels to master.
Just 2.
For instance, utilize Instagram to nurture your existing sphere of influence and TikTok to scale to completely cold audiences. You master the workflow, the hooks, and the cadence on those 2 platforms before you ever consider adding YouTube or LinkedIn to the mix.
And when you are ready to expand, the sources introduce the secret weapon, using an AI like Claude.
This is the middle path that makes multi-platform omnipresence actually achievable.
But you aren't just having it write generic posts, right?
No, you do not use AI to invent thoughts for you. You use it as an adaptation engine. You take one genuine, ground-level market insight from your own experience.
Like what?
For example, maybe you notice that first-time buyers in your specific zip code are suddenly prioritizing multi-generational living spaces over home offices.
Okay, so you take that raw human insight.
And you feed it to Claude. You provide the core thought and instruct the AI, adapt this insight into 4 different formats.
First, write a fast-paced TikTok script with a visual hook.
Second, expand this into a 400-word analytical LinkedIn post aimed at investors.
Third, draft a conversational caption for an Instagram carousel.
And fourth, format it as a helpful, question-based post for a Facebook community group.
So what does this all mean? It's like Claude is the multilingual translator for your real estate brain. You provide the raw genius, the actual expertise, and the AI formats it so that it speaks the local dialect of whatever platform you want to post it on.
That is the exact mechanism. You maintain absolute authenticity of thought, but you leverage technology to adapt the delivery.
Which is brilliant.
Your workload increases by maybe 10%, but your digital footprint multiplies exponentially.
But there's a catch, right?
The caveat is that this requires immense patience. 6 weeks of this workflow will not yield a flood of clients. 6 months of unrelenting consistency is what produces undeniable compounding results.
Because the ultimate goal across all of these platforms, whether it's mastering the interest-based feed on TikTok, capturing search intent on YouTube, or building a moat on Nextdoor, it is not simply harvesting views.
Not at all.
The goal is relationships. Social media, at its absolute best, is a machine for building deep, trusting relationships at a scale that would be physically impossible to achieve through traditional networking.
It completely replaces the cold call with the warm inbound inquiry. The prospect reaches out because they feel they have already vetted your expertise and your personality.
And we are really just scratching the surface of how to execute this. I mean, the source material points out that there is an entire secondary layer regarding the actual craft of writing the content.
Oh, absolutely. The specific psychological triggers and hooks, caption architecture, hashtag strategies.
That tell the algorithm exactly who to serve your video to. We will definitely be dedicating a future lesson entirely to that execution.
Because the underlying strategy gets you on the platform, but the execution of the hook determines if anyone actually listens.
Exactly. Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with. If social media is truly just an engine for building relationships at scale, what happens to the concept of the local neighborhood expert when your digital neighborhood has absolutely no geographic boundaries?
That is a great question.
Think about it. In the future, people might not choose an agent because their office happens to be located down the street, but because their digital personality feels like home. They've spent hours learning from them on YouTube, they trust their unpolished TikToks, they read their market analysis on LinkedIn. Think about that next time you are tempted to just mail out another boring, glossy photo of a kitchen.
The manufactured presentation is obsolete. The era of genuine connection is here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Go out there, drop the veneer, and start building those digital relationships at scale. We will catch you on the next one.
This is The Brief on the AI Decoded podcast. AI Decoded is a weekly show that provides actionable tech advice, and today we are looking at their broadcasting footprint and upcoming programming. You know, keeping up with AI tools feels kind of like navigating this dense, totally unpredictable jungle, which is exactly why finding a reliable guide is absolutely crucial. First, where do you find that guide? Well, listeners can expect a new episode every single week, accessible across all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So why